good, Matt. All right, we'll go and get started. We'd like to welcome Jordan Spieth to the interview room here at the CJ Cup in South Carolina. Jordan, first start on tour this season, coming off the 5-0 record at the President's Cup. Past few weeks, what have you been kind of up to as you've been preparing for the new season outside of some pickleball?
Been trying to play a bunch, practice a bit, kind of keep things progressing from where they went into President's Cup. I felt like I played some really, really nice golf there. And those team events, you feel the pressure you feel trying to win a tournament on a Sunday, and so it's really exciting to hit some really nice shots and make some putts those last 3 days. So trying to gear up for this week. I don't want to start really behind like I have the last 2 years come Kapalua. And so it'd be really nice to get off to a good start and have a strong finish here, because I think this is probably the only PGA Tour, only FedEx Cup event that I'm able to play this fall. So preparing, I got in Sunday night, got out on the course yesterday. I've never been here before. It's really, really cool. I very much enjoyed the 9 holes I played. Looking forward to seeing the rest of it today. And just the whole setting here is, it reminds me of a couple of my favorite places that I've been. It should be a nice, firm, tough test for everybody.
Yeah, and I was going to mention you playing the back 9 yesterday. What specifically stands out about this track that you noticed?
Well, one, there's no rough, and so it kind of has a little bit of that sand belt feel, with the packed kind of sandy areas everywhere. And then I love just these giant trees that shape the holes. They shape a lot of the tee shots. There's a mix of some easier holes with some really meaty hard holes, some bigger green surfaces with some really tiny tabletop type greens on par 5s or short par 4s. And so it's kind of it's kind of interesting, because there's no, each hole you're stepping on, you're expecting it to be somewhat similar to last, and there's something totally different. And I think that was kind of fun to see on the back 9.
Awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and jump right into questions. Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone over to you. Start with Ryan over here.
Jordan, just thinking back to the President's Cup, I think earlier in the week you kind of mentioned how you were in wait-and-see mode with your game. You'd been working on some things and didn't necessarily know how you were going to play. What did you find that clicked so well that now has you so encouraged?
It was just some I had some inconsistencies this year. I didn't have in this last season, I didn't have a great putting season by any means, but I also felt that ball striking was a little more inconsistent than the previous year, and I knew why, and I just needed, a few weeks at home to try and figure it out. And I kind of got to work right after Eastlake and really tried to nail a lot in pre-President's Cup. And then kind of the week leading in, I really started to kind of have things click a bit, and lessons were really enjoyable. We had a good time working on it, and I went in with, I really wanted to play well, but I was going to, most importantly, trust what I was doing under pressure and kind of see where things were at. And I felt like, for the most part, it was really solid. Some of the kind of little fine-tuned shots, taking some off of clubs and whatnot, were not quite there, but I didn't need them a ton because it's such a big golf course. So since then, I've been trying to really do what I was doing then, but then also try and work on some of those off-speed, finesse shots with scoring clubs that you do actually seem to need around here, and we certainly need throughout the season.
Yeah, Doug?
What else you got planned for the fall? Did I see you in the field for the Bahamas?
Yes. You said in the field for the Bahamas? Yes. Yeah, Tigers and father-son. I've got
That's right.
a couple weddings and a family trip and stuff all in November, so a couple events I may have played, I'm just not able to play this year.
And then going forward, how you go about making a schedule, how does that change this year compared with previous years?
I don't think it changes a whole lot from from January to August. I've played a lot of golf in that time frame anyways. I've never played a a lot of events in the fall. I think elevated events will take some priority while still playing essentially a very similar schedule. I think my goal this next year is I'll possibly play 1 or 2 less on the West Coast and play more in Florida. I think that's a better fit for my game, and I did not do that last year with weddings and such. It was a big wedding and year. Sometimes this happens. This next year that's kind of the biggest change for me. It'll be quite a bit more in the Florida area, Texas area, and places where I like more challenging courses on Bermuda and the wind.
I'm curious about some of the elevated, and it's a little bit hypothetical here, but if for example, something like Wells Fargo gets elevated, does that put you in a bind given your DFW routes?
Yeah, I think it looks like it'll just be an extra one in a row. If that's the case, then that does put me and a few other people like Scotty, Zalatoris, like some guys who like playing both the Dallas events, in a situation where you're looking at 5 in a row, which I've done once. I particularly like doing more than 4 in a row, but I love my hometown events. I've been playing them really well as well, and then just played the President's Cup well there at Wells Fargo. So with a major in there and then Jack's event, I think I just, maybe I don't know what it's going to look like, but it looks like probably 5 in a row where I go into Jack's event on Tuesday night or something like that. Yeah, I think at this point that shouldn't be happening that soon. That would be, nowadays I think you got to book like 2 years in advance. Everything's so packed. So I gotta, this next year will be a little easier on that front.
All right, Adam, go ahead.
Jordan, do you appreciate the successes you've been having of late more now after having the struggles that you did for a little while?
I think that more so in the last couple years, I've really enjoyed the process, really enjoyed the work more than ever. The successes, I don't think there's only a couple things I think I could accomplish that would be something I haven't done before. And so I don't like to, that's the goal anyways. That's my expectation, is to play at the highest level and win golf tournaments. And now I'm more enjoying my day-to-day work in getting to a place of freedom, getting to the fields where I'm like, man, I'm going to get there and then I'm going to stripe it all day. It's that kind of excitement that I'm kind of finding in the ground, that's in the work, that's probably what I see the biggest difference from even rookie year to when I was struggling to more recently. I'm appreciating the work and trying to maximize the time that I have when I am working, and enjoying that process more than I would say the end benefit of winning a tournament or winning matches.
What's been one of those moments?
They're almost daily. There's constant. One day, I might progress for 3 days in a row, and those 3 days I look back, I'm like, man, that was a lot of fun. I feel like I'm a lot better player right now going forward. It's just, my whole thing, and it's a cliche because it's said everywhere, is just trying to be 1% better each day. And I feel that I can tangibly grasp when I go out at the start of the day what I can do to become 1% better that day versus just hoping that something fell into my lap. I can actively go pursue it and make sure it happens, and that's fun for me.
What part of your game most recently did you feel that with?
To be honest, I would say I wouldn't say there's one piece. Some days it has been putting. I've needed to spend more time back on the putting green and getting things sound, but then at the same time there's still progressions through short game, through driving the ball, whatever, that lead me there. So it's not more recently, I could give you one day, it's been one thing. I can give you another day. I'm like, man, I walk away thinking I'm going to make everything, you know? So it's not one particular part of the game in the last 6 weeks. It's kind of all parts at different days.
All right, we'll go up to Gene here, and we'll go over here.
Jordan, you said this course reminds you of a few of your favorites. What are those that it reminds you of, and what more specifically do you like about this place?
Well, so first thing that came to mind, I went out and teed off on number 10, and I got to 11 tee box, and 11's a really cool hole shaped by two giant trees that, you know, the hole moves left to right, and you got to kind of take it over the two trees. It reminded me of Whispering Pines in Texas, the #1 rated course in Texas consistently, in East Texas. And we played Big 12s there. I played the Spieth there and been there a couple times with friends. It's just you're out in the middle of nature. Holes are shaped by giant trees. It's fair, but it's tough. Plays firm and fast and rolls. And I think, so that was what came to mind first. Then I kind of thought of it as an Ohoopee on steroids. Ohoopee is a cool club that, I've been fortunate to get to go to and play some rounds on it. And this is obviously a bigger, more challenging version, but, it's not too far away from here as the crow flies. So you get that kind of, I also really like these courses that are in kind of, I don't know if you can consider this a low country or if it's too far inland, but, these courses like the Hilton Head area down to the Sea Island area, Charleston area, where you get this kind of sand-packed ground, these trees. It's really pretty, and for me, I find the visuals, the way that the holes are shaped, to be really appealing. Doesn't necessarily mean they can be very awkward for me while still looking very cool. So it's a challenge, but you kind of have really nice targets set out with the way that they kind of cut this course into the woods.
Awesome. All right, we'll go right over here.
Have you done any equipment testing recently? Are you making any gear changes this week?
I'm not. I have not. I got a fresh set of irons, but I'll probably wait till after this week to put them in and keep it just from wear and tear on the ones I've had. So nothing different. I play with almost no bounce on my 60 degree, and I feel that that's best served on courses like this, where you're not going to be using bounce anyways on grain and some firm bunkers. So the only question I have is the question I normally have, which is it a 3-iron or a hybrid golf course? And it looks to be a hybrid golf course because there's not many tee shots with a 3-iron. It's mostly driver all day around here, a couple 3-woods.
Okay. A few more to Ryan, then Hogel.
Jordan, two things. How do you view the downtime? Just curious. Do you create a schedule? Are there certain things that you want to accomplish during the time away from the tour?
Well, I think it depends, because downtime could be I'm not touching a club for a week, and then downtime could just be an off week, which is different than downtime. So if I'm getting away from it, at this point, I have an 11-month-old, so mostly hanging with him and going on walks in the neighborhood and seeing friends at home, seeing family. Nothing crazy exciting, because you can't really go anywhere, do anything when you have a baby. And then I would say, I typically build a pretty consistent plan now if it's an off week where I'm going to be practicing. So if I had the last 3 weeks off, I played well at the President's Cup, and I didn't want to take much time off after. So that by Wednesday morning, I was back with Cameron. And we were kind of building a progressive plan to essentially work around when he was in town, where I would see him maybe 2 out of 3 days, and I'd go play 3 days. Then I'd come back and see him, what shots were there, what weren't, go play a few days. So I felt like I enjoyed that, so that's probably what I'll do the rest of the fall, which is see him in bunches, get a lot of reps in, and then go off and go play 3 out of 4 days or whatever it may be.
And you've mentioned before, you're 29, you love to play golf. It's the only thing you've ever done. Is there a magic number for a top player's off season? Is it 2 months off? Is it 3 months off, longer? How do you kind of view that?
I would say I've never gone over a week without getting the itch to come back. But as far as a break from, the 2-3 tournaments in a row, the grind, I don't know. I've never really had one other than, because even in college golf, right, like you're not playing as often, but you're still playing consistently, every 3 weeks. You may have a winter off. I think like the 6-week period of not playing is, I'd get it, I'm ready to kind of do something, whatever it may be. So as it looks like we start to get more of an off season, if you're playing really well, you could still play, and there's still opportunities to go play. And you can also get groups of guys together and go somewhere cool. And I think that would be something that I would look forward to. I would say, I mentioned going to Ohupi. May of 2020, I went with Ricky, Justin, Gary, Kiz, Duff, might have been is that 6? And we went there and we were just trying to get sharp. We were trying to play matches. So I think opportunities like that come about that wouldn't have when you kind of felt like you needed to play a few times in the fall. So those guys have that. A lot of those guys have that luxury day to day in Florida. So it'd be nice to maybe go there and in the off season in the future and get some games, whatever it may be, to stay competitive. But it'll be nice to be able to step back, get more done in the gym if you want to, and then build a schedule out that really suits everything that we want to do to make the PGA Tour as good as it can be from January to August.
We got last two right here with Hogel and Taylor.
Yeah. I'm asking a question on behalf of the Korean media, the Mail Business News. I remember this is your first appearance at the CJ Cup. Is there any special things or part at the CJ Cup? This is one question. And then second question is that do you have any comments or thought on recent good performance of Korean young players like Tom Kim or
I really loved when the one time I played this tournament on Jeju Island. The hotel we were at was great. The food was unbelievable. The golf course was really fun to play. Everybody stayed at the same hotel and hung out together. It was a really, really fun week. I enjoyed it over there, and the crowds were great as they always are in Korea. You go to Korea and Japan, some of the best crowds we have all year. So much excitement around the PGA Tour going there. As far as the young players, Tom Kim is working with my instructor. He's moved to Dallas. He's working with my physio, same physio that I use that a number of guys use. So I've seen him and I'm around him quite a bit in the last 6 weeks versus I didn't know Tom before that. So what a really he's really nice. I don't want to say kid because that's gonna make me seem old. But what a nice kid and very inquisitive, asking a lot of questions to try and get better. And I think that's something I wish I did when I was his age. Just coming up and asking players, yesterday I think he asked me what was your most difficult major to win. I was just like, I don't really know if I've been asked that question before ever. Like, what was the most difficult and why? And he's trying to learn as he's in such a great place. Got a unbelievably bright future as a lot of these young Koreans. It seems like right now you have this progression that you've seen on the LPGA Tour, over the last 10 years. It's starting to happen on the PGA Tour with young, talented Korean players that are coming out and not afraid to win at a very early age. Siwoo might be one of the most talented individuals in the game of golf, and it's always been fun to watch him play. So I think the future's really bright.
Right. And lastly with Taylor right here.
After this past weekend, just wanted to know if you see any future in competing in pickleball.
I think I'll probably play quite a bit more, but probably not as often as Scotty. I think he's like an every other day kind of guy, and I think I'd played less than 10 times. So I tell you, it was a really weird feeling going in front of a big crowd knowing you were the worst on the court, and I didn't like that at all. Like, I'm fine in front of a crowd if I know that I've practiced and I'm good at what I'm going to do. But when I wouldn't say like I'm bad, but when you're the worst of the ones that are going to be on there and there's like 500 people there, you're like, this kind of stinks. I don't really enjoy this. So I asked Michael, is that what it's like when you're hitting shots at like 17 of Sawgrass or 16 of Phoenix? I'm like, is this kind of how it feels? He's like, yeah. He's like, that's why I'll either hit it really close or I'll miss the green. So it was a lot of fun though. It's kind of just seems like a sport everybody can play, and I was happy to join in.
All right. With that, Jordan, thanks for the time. Best of luck this week.
Thank you.